All right, so hi, Ron. Thank you so much for joining us today. So how are you doing? How's life in the email industry going on?
It's good, Victoria. Thank you so much for having me. As we talked about a little bit preparing for this, I just went through a huge move cross country from Illinois to Nevada. That's why I'm in an Airbnb behind me. And it's been an interesting challenge. Even keeping up with email actually during this time has been tough. Yeah. We're moving along. We're hanging in there. So.
Nice. So I would ask you a question that I probably ask some of my experts, which is, what's your relationship with email? Do you have a love-hate relationship, or is it all love? What's your relationship with your inbox like?
There's a lot of hate. Uh, no, there's not a ton of love. No, reality is, I see for me, email is essentially a requirement to grow my business. I mean, it yields the most results. I can say that confidently. Like without email, I wouldn't be nearly as successful as I am because there's so many different deals and just so many different things that I do through email and relationships that I facilitate through email. In fact, our own relationship, that was all established through email. So it's definitely, in my opinion, like a necessary evil. I don't want to make it sound like the worst thing in the world, but it is a bit of a time suck at times. It does get a little bit frustrating because, you know, every day I probably get between, I'd say at least 50 to 100 emails because I have a whole portfolio of websites. So there's a lot of things that happen every day for me. So it's mostly, there's a lot of hate there, but it is the love in that, hey, this is what is really moving the needle for me and helps me, really, move my businesses forward in general.
Nice. So I say that to say you have all these emails going through your inbox, you have your day-to-day running your business. What's an email productivity tip that you personally use to make sure that you're on track?
Yeah. So if it's okay, I'd like to say two, only
Sure.
because I think that there's two important ones. So the first one is that I actually all of my emails, they're all run through G Suite, Google Suite, pretty much all my email accounts. And if they're not, they're in other email clients. I actually have all of them roll up into one Gmail email inbox, which and then I use different tags and things on those to categorize where they're coming from. I think that's really important because, like I said, I think my situation is unique because I have a whole portfolio of websites. So if I had to check all those inboxes or manage all of them, every time a day and log into each of them, it would be way, way, way too much. So I think that's one big productivity hack that I have that allows me to handle, I don't even know, I think I have like 12 or 15 active email addresses
Oh,
at a time. Yeah, because there's all these like support and then, at this website and then this over here, there's tech, all these different things that I have to do. So I would say that's one of my biggest ones is just rolling it all up into one if possible. If you're in a situation like I am, solopreneur, you have to do that sort of thing. Also, the other thing I'll say is that every day when I wake up, to start the day specifically, one of the first things that I do is I try to get the easy wins first, meaning that I'll scan my inbox for emails that don't really require action, but are more of a reaction in a way, right? So it could just be someone replying to me and saying, "Hey, great, that's awesome, thank you," which is
yeah.
like, not even there's no action needed, but I basically will look at those emails that, all the different emails I have, the ones that don't actually require action, and sometimes I'll get subscribed to newsletters, so I'll unsubscribe from those if they're not necessary. Sometimes I'll get outreach from people that I'm not really all that interested in working with, and maybe it's the second or third time they've done it, so I may mark them as spam. Or, I may just simply mark them as read if it's just a reply with someone I know or a relationship I built. So,
Nice. And I mean, for those of you who are listening, just a reminder that Mailbird also offers a unified inbox. So if you have multiple emails, you can actually integrate them and sync your calendar with Mailbird. So that's another option if you're using G Suite.
yeah, very, very important. Like I said, I did it with G Suite I've been in it for years now, but
Yeah.
extremely important to have unified inbox because if you have that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. All right. So while you're doing all these emails, just a question throwing a small curveball is, when you're engaging with people for business, what's a common mistake that you see them making that could easily be fixed when they're reaching out to people, communication, or working in business?
So simple. The number one thing I see that's a mistake that people make when they're doing outreach, and I've been guilty of doing it myself in the past, is that they're not leading with value. So they're leading with an ask. and they're just saying, hey, would you be, for me, it's always, would you be willing to link to this article? And it's kind of like, and they're like, oh, I think it, and the give that, whatever they're doing for me is, oh, I think your audience will like it. Well, it's like, well, no, I know why you're really doing this, because you want to link and search engine optimization and all these other things. So give me some real value. Don't just lead with, I think your audience will like this. And I know there's maybe a very small amount of people that work with, but when people ask me for things, I literally will go back to them and say, hey, this seems a little one-sided. So, what else can we get? Like, what is the offer? Because of the reality, I'm not trying to be selfish, but if you expect something like that, which can be a big ask depending on the site, then you should offer some real value up front. And I will push people back on that. And a lot of the times they reply with some value. And it's like, well, you should have led with that, and then maybe we work on it from there. But that's one. Yeah, the communication and just giving them some type of value up front, I think is such a mistake that a lot of people don't do that. So
yeah, I realize that's also something that you should make when brands are reaching out to customers as well, to not make it seem one-sided.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are some of the ways or some of the email tools that you currently use just to manage your day-to-day? And you can also tell us about your experience with emails with clients or those that you've worked with.
Yeah. So for the most part, I mean, in terms of productivity, I try to keep it really simple. I know that there's a lot of very in-depth tools out there, but I just use Todoist, which is just like a virtual, it's on my desktop at all times. It's a to-do list app, and it's literally just like, here's the apps. You can create repeated ones, check them off. It's simple. There's much more detailed things out there, but I like simplicity when it comes to that. So I always use that. I also use another one. It's called, I believe it's pronounced Briskine or Briskine. It's Briskine. If you're familiar with that, I don't know if you are, but this is one, it's actually been really helpful. So like I said, for me, with my email, I am managing all these different websites. And with all these different websites, there's a lot of different times when someone will send an email to me, and it's an email that I've gotten before, right? So I want to have a templated response, maybe not fully templated, but at least partially templated, to make it so that my life is easier and I can just do something quickly. So what it does is it allows me to type in basically a keyboard shortcut and then press tab, and then a message will auto populate. So so it's actually really helpful. So like my main site is onehourprofessor.com. So with that one, every email that I respond to where it's like, oh, this could use a templated message. Like somebody reaches out for, hey, will you link to me? I have a templated response back. So I'll type OHP, and then I'll type the rest of it and press tab, just a few different other keys, press tab, and then it will auto populate. So that's actually been really helpful for me. And that one, I had a hard time finding that. They had one for Gmail that was, I don't remember even what it was called. It was canned responses, I think, a while ago that they had.
And I also know that you can save certain replies in Gmail, but you have to do it in the setting, and it takes some configuring to get it.
Yeah. So I had a hard time finding this tool, and I was surprised it was so hard to find. But it is a nice little hack that, I'll just type in 5 letters, press tab, and then boom, I have the templated response right there. And I have a lot now. I probably have over 100 different templates because I have all those websites. So that's really helped me with productivity. And then the last thing for me is that with any of my sites, I'm trying to build a brand essentially.
Right.
So I don't overdo it, but I do need to do some cold outreach, some cold email outreach. And I typically will use a tool called Mailshake to do that. So they basically, and I know you guys work with them, but they basically will go out and you can set it up to where kind of on automation, like, hey, send an email on this date, and then 5 days later, and then 5 days later from that. So that's kind of one of the tools that helps me with that. And it's been pretty good as well. So
yeah, they're really good when it comes to cold outreach. So for anyone who's trying to, do some cold outreach, cold outreach is when you reach out to someone that has never received an email from you before. That's a tool you should definitely consider using as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And as you've been working throughout the year, what are some of the changes or things that you've noticed in terms of emails in the corporate or the B2B or B2C industry?
I've noticed that I feel like I've gotten more volume, which I think makes sense because we have so many people remote, right? And they're trying these other things, and maybe because I don't know, I'm just kind of I guess, guessing here, but
And some
I
people are
guess maybe.
discovering email for the first time for their
Yeah,
business.
which is like crazy because it is very valuable. But I think maybe corporations and such and just bigger companies, they're starting to see the value in maybe we can do some cold outreach, and they're starting to use these tools and understand because everyone went remote, right? So it wasn't always as easy as having everyone there. So maybe they're just trying new things. But I have noticed that I've had more volume in emails this year than in the past. So yeah, that'd probably be the biggest thing that I've noticed is that, and that I think more people are more willing and more receptive to communicate via email as well. Probably just because the conditions, like everything that's going on all around the world here, I think all of us have become more accustomed to, hey, this
You're
is kind
glued
of
to
the
your
new normal.
phone, you're glued to your
Yep,
laptop. It's just so much easier. We always check our inbox to accomplish inbox zero, all these things.
yep, yep. I do that every day, and then within literally 10 minutes, it's no longer inbox zero. So,
It's a hard thing to do. I
uh,
don't think inbox zero will ever really happen, but
no,
you can be efficient in how you manage your emails.
yes, for sure.
Okay. So, what are some things that you foresee happening in the email industry for 2022? I want to talk about that. What are some things that people can see in terms of communication, whether it's outreach, whether it's reaching out to how brands are connecting and relating? We know that value is definitely an important factor, and personalization is something everyone says, but what are some things that people, even if they're the basic, that people just are overlooking or things that you know are going to happen in 2022 based on how the culture has shifted?
Yeah, I think in general, just it's funny that people are just discovering email, as you said. Like people are really realizing the value of it. I feel like for so long, so many people just kind of got shiny object syndrome, and they're like, oh, social media and TikTok and Instagram and this, that, and all brands are guilty of this too. Most marketing folks are, but the reality is I've always kind of touted these emails like the number one because it's a place where you can actually facilitate a one-to-one conversation as opposed to a one-to-many, like you have on social media. You're just another post in a feed there. So personally, I think email, I see it as something that will have more growth in the future. I think that this year and kind of, like I said, as we went remote, I feel like a lot of individuals and companies are going to better utilize email again, and they're going to maybe take a second look at it because there's so many one-to-one things that can happen there, and individuals speaking to individuals that can really facilitate a relationship more than just a massive, blast out on email or blast out on social media to where people aren't
Can you
actually
give a few
responding to the posts.
examples?
Yeah, I mean, so when working with different companies out there, I mean, I'm constantly, uh, I've sent out those social media posts, right? Like I've done all that. And I found that if I were to, let's say, do a cold email outreach campaign up to, I don't know, 20 people, I'm probably about likely with the way that I do things to get about a 30 to 40% response in that, which is obviously pretty good. And there's some tricks there, like I'll connect with them on LinkedIn and other things as well to make sure they notice me. But I usually do that. If I were to post something on social media, like on Facebook or or anywhere else, it's just going to get lost in the fray, right? So I just see that so many people, once they're responding back to me, is that I'm building rapport. I mean, that's really how I think that we had connected. I think I had at one point reached out previous, to you. So, and that just goes to show like you can really build a connection, and it's not just going out there and asking. It's going out there, making an acquaintance, and then actually becoming colleagues in a way. Like you and I here, like we're actually working together now. I just cold emailed, I believe, a while ago, and that just goes to show that you can create those real relationships, and it is that one-to-one, and there is that thread. And I know it's like old school and it's not sexy, but it just straight up works. Like that's what really works, and it's going to continue to work. I don't think it's going anywhere because the more that all these other platforms pop up, then the more noise there is, right? Like we're all people. You're not emailing robots, so actually responding to them and saying, hey, I see you're in this location. That's really cool. I'm from there, and connecting with people, really connecting with people. It's just a way to connect with people. That's all email really is. So just make sure you're using it in that way and don't automate it too much.
That's true. Some a previous expert said, before you send an email, read it out loud. Would you say this to a random person if you met them in
Yeah.
person? If not, then
Yeah.
don't send the email.
Yeah. That's a fair statement for sure. For sure.
Okay. Is there any last statements that you'd love to leave with our audience?
Not necessarily anything more than, I mean, just, I would say just embrace email, understand that, I mean, it's not new, right? It's been around for a long time, but there's so much noise and so many things going on and so many people are distracted by these other things that if you're to just go back to the foundation of one of the foundations of the internet, which is email, which facilitates a one-to-one conversation, you can do some really great things and make some really great connections and really build a community and all that with it. So
Nice, nice. Thank you so much, Ron. And I've also, if you guys want to learn more about this, there are more episodes coming for this series. If you want to learn more about Ron, just check the links in the description and you can see what he's up to. Thank you so much for joining us, Ron, for this episode of Ask the Email Expert on our Mailbird YouTube channel. I appreciate all the advice that you've given us so far.
thanks, Victoria. Appreciate it. And it was great being here. Great to actually meet you in person as well. So.
Thank you.